This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because, well, it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and welcome to another edition of This Day in Sports History. This dish is a member of the Sports History Network. You can find more info and more great podcasts at sportshistorynetwork.com. Let's start in 1971 and the first game the NFL ever played on Christmas Day, and it turned out to be the longest NFL game played on any day. This was the gift that just kept on giving. It was a divisional playoff game between the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Dolphins loved running the football with their backfield duo of Jim Kick and Larry Zonka. The Chiefs had been a brick wall against the run that season with the second-best rushing defense in the AFC. But the man really doing the running in this game was Kansas City's Ed Podolak. Throughout the day, he racked up 350 all-purpose yards, which set a new NFL playoff record. He scored twice as well, giving the Chiefs a really good chance to win it in regulation. The Dolphins were a young, scrappy team, and they fought to stay in this ballgame. Miami had the ball but trailed by 7 with under 2 minutes to play, but they were able to find a path to the end zone for the equalizer. Here's KC's play-by-play man Dick Carlson with the call that day for AM 580 WIBW.
And it's second down and about 2 yards to go for the first down, 5 for the touchdown. Warfield is wide left, pretty wide right. Running the tight end right. Kick and sock to the running backs, and Greasy the quarterback, a long count. Taking his time, drops back, wants to throw, under pressure, being rushed, rolls right, throws, touchdown. Marv Fleming, the tight end. And again, it was a scrambling Greasy who found Marv Fleming open.
But there was still time left for the Chiefs, and with a strong kicker like Jan Stenerud, they didn't have to go far. On the ensuing kickoff, they got more than they really needed. Here's Carlson again.
Podolak and McVay at the goal line, and Yepremian's kick is in the air. Podolak at the 1, up the middle, 10, the 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50.
Carlson gets drowned out a bit there at the end, but Podolak nearly housed the kickoff, but his 78-yard kickoff return put the Chiefs in great position. After a few plays to set up the game winner, Stenerud's 32-yard attempt was wide right, and looking back at his stats that year, he did struggle from that distance, hitting just 4 of his 8 attempts. He missed an even longer one in the first overtime that would have, again, won it for the Chiefs. So the game dragged on into the second overtime. And instead, it was the Dolphins' diminutive left-footed kicker, Garo Yepremian, the man who looked more like he was your CPA than a football player, who came on with 7 minutes, 20 seconds left in OT number 2 and booted a 37-yard field goal to win it for Miami. The veteran Chiefs were sent home for the rest of the playoffs, while the Dolphins moved on. Larry Zonka said it gave the young Miami team confidence that they belonged.
That was the first time that the Dolphins realized that we just weren't a flash in the pan, and that game seemed to go on forever. But somehow, some way, someone would make a play to keep us in it. And I think it was the first time that we realized that we could play heads-up football with just about anyone.
Let's go back to 1862 and a baseball game played on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. Obviously, this was during the American Civil War, and Hilton Head was under Union control at this point and was home to thousands of soldiers, military families, and freed slaves. There was a very large federal base located here, and it was a strategic location for the Union Army's three-piece Anaconda plan to restrict supplies coming in and cotton getting out. Christmas Day 1862 was a rare day off for the federal troops on the island, and a full day of festivities was planned with a baseball game capping off a huge feast and celebration. Now, there are differing accounts of the day, but there was an estimation of about 40,000 people in attendance to watch this game, which would have easily made it one of the most attended sporting events in the 19th century. Others believe that number is greatly exaggerated, and they put the number more like 10,000 watching from the dunes around the field. Most reports from that day come from a guy named A.G. Mills, who was known to embellish a few things, make some things up without any basis in fact, but it is known that he was one of the players that day and would later become the president of the National Baseball League in the 1870s. Now, the rules of the day differed from place to place and depended on where you were from. New York rules differed from Boston, and the South had its own way of playing as well. For example, one rule played in some areas but wasn't in effect on this day was called soaking, which was a way to record an out by throwing the ball at the runner and hitting them with it before they reached the base. Even the number of bases used differed from region to region and city to city. On this day, 3 New York regiments made up the two teams. On one, there were members of the 47th and 48th Regiment, and the other team comprised of lads from the 165th New York Volunteer Light Infantry. So, it goes to figure that New York or Brooklyn rules were used on this day, which historians say became the most used way to play the game after the war. They played 9 to a side, the ball was pitched underhand, there was fair and foul territory, and the positions on the field were similar to today's version. Some versions played 1 out per side, others played 3, and some versions even played more than that. Some games were played until one team scored 100, but on this day, the scoring used and even the final score is lost to history. But many credit the growth of baseball with uniting the country after the war due to the fact that so many soldiers were exposed to it during the war, and the exposure it got on this day in 1862 surely helped. And I'll throw a shameless plug in here. I voiced the audiobook version of a novel titled The American Game, which is focused around the development of baseball during the Civil War and how the different cultures and regions brought together due to the war helped create the game that we know and love today. It's not about what happened on Hilton Head Island on this day, it's set in Tennessee, but it is historical fiction that gives really good insight on all the different versions of the game that existed at the time and the game's origins. Again, it's called The American Game, written by Jeff McArthur and voiced by me. I've put a link in the show notes if you want to check it out. All right, shameless plug over. Time now for an actual plug. Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. And since we're talking about hockey, in 1956, Detroit Red Wings great Gordie Howe scored 3 goals and assisted 3 others in an 8-1 win over the New York Rangers. It was the most points he ever scored in a game in his 26-year career. And time now for today's Nothing to Do with Sports Fun Fact. Bing Crosby's White Christmas is the best-selling single of all time. This is Steve White, the host of This Day in Sports History. Thanks for listening to this episode. One quick thing, I'm up for an award. I made the short list for the best sports talk podcast in 2024, and there are some heavy hitters in this category, such as the Kelsey brothers, Scott Van Pelt, and Bill Rhoden. Now, there's not much hope for me winning this category against those guys, but if you're a fan of the show, then you may know that one of my favorite sports movies is Will Ferrell's Semi-Pro, and one of the things in that movie is his effort to get his team to finish in fourth place. So I've kind of poached that idea and would love for you to help me finish in fourth place. I put a link in the show notes that will take you to the page where you can vote. You can only vote once in the category, so if you would cast your vote for my podcast, that would be awesome. Appreciate it. Have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.